Okay, so per another request, I'm going to do a draw along of a horse. And I've just grabbed a photo from the wall of one of our old horses who's sadly no longer with us, but this is a horse who I used to ride when I was little, and I'm quite old now. So, and this is my daughter, who's now 8, sitting on her. Anyway, she's got a really nice face to do, and it showed a bit of the shape. So I thought it might be a good one to try. So grab yourself a pencil and some paper, and let's have a look. So the way I find I draw most things is I look for shapes. I don't really do the whole drawing circles and joining up, but I do look for these kind of shapes that I see in an animal or a person or an object, and I use them to help me kind of map out what it is I'm drawing. So let's start, shall we? I usually like to start with an ear, so I'm going to start up here with this far away ear here. I hope you can see. I wonder whether I should zoom in. Maybe that's a wee bit better. Let's try that. I know the reflection's not very good. Let's try that and see if that helps. Okay, so we're going to start with this ear here, and what I want you to do is, just before I start, when you're drawing, I want you to think about the type of line you're drawing. Now, there's lots of different lines that you can make with your pencil. You can make straight lines, you can make wiggly lines, obviously, but you can also, sometimes when we draw, it can be, and we're nervous about what we're drawing, it can be quite easy to kind of make these hesitating marks, and then it looks like a kind of woolly line, and we don't want to make woolly lines. So what we're going to do is we're going to try and make nice lines that are interesting to look at. And for me, those are lines that are sometimes light and are sometimes dark, and sometimes I'll turn my pencil around, and so I've got different edges on it. And can you see how that makes like different marks, different lines, and that starts making things a little bit more interesting. Okay, so let's have a go, shall we? So with that in mind, I'm going to start with this top ear here, and I'm looking at the shape, and it's a beautiful kind of like a tear shape. So we're going to go up like that, and then I'm going to apply a little bit more pressure and just come down like here. Okay, like this, and then we've got another bit at the back of the ear there. Okay, and dear Betsy, she had a bit of mane coming down like this. Her name was Batsy, by the way. It was a funny name. Mrs. B we used to call her. Right, and then I'm going up and I'm doing the other ear now, and it's kind of curves. They have you know, a little point, and then it curves back round and down. Okay, and then you can see the back of the ear here. So about here we're going to come down, and we're going to mark that in like that. And again, we've got some mane coming here, and we could put a bit of shadow in here. I'm just using strokes like this where I'm just making lots of little marks like that, and then you can cross over and build up some shade. But rather than just, I mean, you can do that, that's quite nice, but I'm just trying to think of the different types of marks that I can make to build up a nice picture. I actually think that this line's a bit much like that. You can maybe have a pen and eraser to hand if you want, but don't worry if you don't. Okay. Right, so now we've got her ears in place, I find it helpful to just mark in where the neck is. So we're going to come behind that ear, which is here. And then she's got kind of this lovely mane. She had a lovely mane that's kind of blowing in the wind. And so it's good to mark that in. And then what's good to mark is just make that a bit darker as well. And then that is going to help as well to just underneath to just, it just helps to start build up your picture a wee bit. And then a little bit of shade, not too heavy, behind the ear. And we're going to start looking at that shape of the ear there, because then if you can see this shape here, it starts to lead nicely down to the neck. Okay, so let's just mark that nice and dark there, and then let's look at that shape and bring it down. We'll just draw a bit of a line to help describe the neck, and I'm kind of following this kind of shape here. Okay, and then this here is rounded, so we can kind of use our pencil marks going in a way that describes the direction of that form, a bit like this. Okay, I think it maybe comes down a wee bit like that. Okay, and again she's got this lovely mane. Now that I've got this up here, I'm going to come back up to this ear, and I'm going to start doing this side of her face. Okay, put that up a wee bit. So we can see her face really nicely here, and it's starting right back up here, and here we come down to about there, and then to fit her eye in, you've got her eye socket, which kind of comes out, and it kind of comes out again like that. And that's kind of in line with, if you put your pencil when you're drawing something, so I can put my line up, and it's going from the point of the nostril up through the corner of the eye and almost but not quite to the tip of the ear. So we need to come out a tiny bit, and then it comes back in like that. Okay, and then I'm not sure how well you can see it, but there's a slight kind of shadow there where, so if we start here, and the type of horse that Batsy was, her face comes in a little bit and then out. Some horses have got a really straight face, or what's called a Roman nose, and I really like drawing those, like Clydesdale horses. They have a big Roman nose and they're really fun to draw. Maybe we can do a Clydesdale horse another time. But Batsy's nose comes down like this, and then it comes out again to the nostril, and it comes a little bit straight, and then down. Okay, so it's hard to see in the photo, but just trust me on the drawing, I guess. And then what might be helpful here is just to put in a bit of shade to help describe her nose. And so for me, I like adding bits of shade as I go, rather than drawing all the line and then going back into the shade, because I think when I draw something, I find the shade to be really helpful at helping me figure out what it is I'm drawing and whether I'm making any mistakes. And at the moment I'm looking up and I think that ear looks a little bit wrong there, so I'm just gonna fix that there. So her nose is really quite dark, so we can have a bit of fun building up that, and it's got these sort of like slightly wrinkly bits like that. And some horses it's really nice because they've got pink noses, but if you can find some pictures of that, you can do that. So a horse's nostrils are funny things, but this, it kind of comes round and, well, in this case it's like a backward C or a backward 6, I guess, like that. Let's have a look. It kind of comes out and round, and then here it comes back in, and you don't join it up, it sort of has this bit there, and then we're going to make that bit dark because this is the bit that kind of goes in, that's the nostril. And then this bit is dark, but it's also, because it comes out, you don't want to make it dark all the way to the edge, so we've got that there. So we bring our shadow around, and this is her muzzle and her mouth, which comes up like that. And then, honey, I think you're shaking it. And her mouth ends a bit higher up than the top of her nostril, and I kind of just like to make a slightly darker mark in the corner of her mouth there. And then it comes, if we start just below the corner of the mouth, but leaving a tiny bit of a gap, and then we start to work our way back down, and it comes out a bit for her bottom lip and then back in. Okay, if you can see that. Now we can make that a bit darker under to show that that's underneath, and then this is quite nice and dark, isn't it? So we can make that dark, and we can go back in and make our darker areas darker, because sometimes when you build up your tone, you find that as you make some areas darker, other areas that you've made dark before start to look a bit light, so it's quite good to keep going back and checking. And again, I'm going to go back in and try and work underneath this nostril to make it look as though the nostril's kind of got a bit of shape to it. They are funny things. Soft and velvety there. And then this bit it sort of goes in. This bit's a lovely soft bit, good for stroking. There, you see this bit kind of comes in. So I'm just using these little shapes as markers to help me plan where my drawing should go and the shape of her face. And so she had little beardy bits, which is also nice to get in. It's nice if not all of your drawing is joined up line. And then we're going to go and go up here. And her jaw, horses have this massive jaw, cheekbone here. It's big and flat. It's like a D. Can you see that? So let's get that in, shall we? So before that, we have this area here of their jaw, where their teeth come all the way back up. And up here is just all kind of muscles, and it's a bit of a, I suppose, an oblongy shape. So I'm just lightly marking that in. And then the D of that jaw, that cheekbone rather, sorry, comes in here, and then it comes out and goes up like that, and it really joins up to the ear, if you can see that. I'm not going to draw my line right up there, but I'm just using a guide to place it down. I'm kind of marking, it's a bit darker in there, and it's really taking place, the shape now, isn't it? So now we've got her jaw in place. I keep calling her jaw, her cheekbone in place. We can kind of come back over and start mapping where to put this last eye, because her eye is really important. And the placement of the eye is always really important in your drawing, so it's worth taking extra care with it. So we're going to come over here, and we're going to start looking, and I'm just going to pay a little bit of an attention now. I'm going to use my pencil, and it shows me that the edge of her eye here is in line with the edge of her ear. So what we can do is we can do that, and I can just roughly just put a little mark if I want to. And most of the time I kind of do this just by eye, but I want to show you that it's really useful to use other markers on your drawing to show you how you can measure where to map out your drawing if you need that help. So the front corner of her eye is in line with this edge of her ear. So if I put that in reasonably correctly, I can kind of come down and just kind of mark that in very lightly there. And our beautiful big eye. So we're going to mark in that corner there, and the eye goes up, and then it goes over, and then I'm going to leave a little gap. Because she's got these eyelashes that are white, so I'm kind of drawing a double line. I don't know whether you can see that, Annie. So I've just marked that in, and that'll help with our shading. And then the bottom of the eye comes down, and then it comes a little bit flat across like this, and then to the front like that. And once we feel like we've got the eye in about right, we can start to kind of build up a bit of shade around it. Now, most horses have this kind of dark, it's like a bit like eyeliner around their eyes, so we can shade in a little bit around there and start to build this up. And what's also good to kind of know is that just like here, which is, you can see this big socket, this is happening here as well. So we can kind of mark that in and know that when we're building our shape, it's kind of coming around like that. So now I've got this in, I'm going to start making this darker, and this is where you want to start making your dark areas really dark, because actually her eye is the darkest bit on her of her features. And I'm just colouring in. There's a bit of light hitting just under her eyelashes, so I'm just leaving a little bit of white there, but I'm taking it nice and dark, and then I'm taking it dark above her eyelashes as well. I'm just trying to get, this kind of picture of her like that. Okay, and then you can use your shading to kind of shade down and shade around. I feel like this eye needs to maybe be a little bit deeper. There we go. So there's a bit of shade at the back of her eye, and this is again going to help you build a picture of her. And actually, I think I've done this jaw a little bit. Could be a little bit lower. I feel like now I've put the eye in, I think the jaw should be a little bit lower. She had big jaw, big cheekbones. Done it again, haven't I? I've called the jaw the cheekbones the jaw. Right. And then her throat kind of starts here, and it's, where are we? And it comes down like that. And we've got part of her shoulder there. I'm not going to draw the rest of them, and I'm certainly not going to be drawing the people on top, so don't worry about that. Again, we can get some nice dark bits and shade it in. I'm using a nice soft pencil. I think people often wonder what pencils I'm using. This one is a Faber and Castle, and it's a 2B. I either draw with a 2B or a 4B, sometimes a 6B. But I like the Bs. And these Faber and Castle ones are just nice and soft. But you can use any pencil at all. You don't need to be buying fancy artist pencils. I just have these because that's my job. Okay. Right, I won't do too much down there because you can't see, can you? So we can just keep going back in and making little marks. And what's really nice is to change the directions that you're making your marks. So moving your pencil, so don't always make your pencil marks in the same direction, because then you can start to lose a little bit of interest in your drawing. I try to make my pencil marks work with the direction that I'm describing. So this part of the nose is going out the way, so I'm sort of doing my lines that way to kind of help build up an explanation of the shape that I'm trying to describe. I don't know whether that makes sense or not. But now that I've got this darkest point here with the eye, I can now come back in and see that actually her nose can be darker, because when you squint at something, if you look at something and squint, so if I can get this, it's hard for you guys seeing in a picture, but if you look at the picture and squint your eyes, you can actually see that this is the darkest point, the eye, but also the nostril is the same. If you're squinting, you can see it kind of has the same value, and actually as well in this ear, so that means that we can make in here and here as dark as the eye, and it's going to help to describe our shape really well. And that's a really good tip when you're drawing. If you're drawing an object in front of you, either shutting one eye or squinting as if you're, staring at the sun or something. If you squint, it will help you to see the like the values of your tones. And by tone, I mean what we're doing here. So this is a light tone and this is a dark tone, yeah? And that's what I mean. So I just did that around the jaw, and I'm just kind of playing around now. I'm just starting to build up my picture. I've really enjoyed drawing her, dear Betsy. We miss you. It's really nice drawing pets and things like animals that you've known before, maybe haven't looked at in a wee while. I think top of her mane could come up a wee bit. Betsy was very good at jumping. She was very fast as well. She was great fun. So here, by making this nice and dark behind her cheekbone and coming down her throat, that really helps to describe the what's happening. And here, just coming up her jaw, and she's got those lovely whiskers. I think we're just about there. I might just do a little bit coming this way up towards her face, her eye. But I think this is probably a good enough introduction to drawing a horse. So here we go. And I would love to see your drawings. And if there is anything that you fancy seeing me draw or would like help with, then drop me a message or reply in a comment, and I'll see what I can do. All right, thanks and have fun. Bye.